Okay. As I said to you before, this on Facebook will be our image in another. You are up and I am down.
Yes.
And
yeah.
maybe a little bit the layout will be a little bit different. I'm just also checking. Actually, it looks okay. I'm looking now because I did on Instagram and it's smaller. Actually, it's a little smaller, but it's fine. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, does it fit in my microphone and the whole of my body, or how does it?
On Facebook, is actually full screen and looks looks good. On YouTube, a little smaller, but because I put some images of you, of your work, and also some of mine that you are on the bottom and I'm on the top. This is how it looks also on Instagram. But basically, yeah, I'm only checking 1 second the audio.
Yeah, not a problem.
Only 1 second, I want to check the audio. I'm only checking 1 second the audio. All right, it's work. There's a little bit delay because I guess the time or the other software give a little delay on the audio. That sound. All right. Hello, Stelarc. Thanks for accepting my invitation for this talk on streaming. I really appreciate that you are here, and I introduce a little bit for also our guests what is this project about. I am working on social software like chat software for many years. I've been very interested on this new tool, new technology. But of course, using in terms of really which opportunity actually, what open in terms of experimenting or understanding how to use it. Of course, I did I've been using many ways for my work. But since we had this COVID experience, the last couple of years, 1 year and a half, pretty much, I've been, of course, at home pretty much segregated, obligated to stay at home and not having the possibility to move around, having show and being able to go around to see exhibitions or to having a normal life like before. I've been starting to think how to use in other ways. And of course, my feeling is that the technology in general, it doesn't substitute life, but can give you other opportunity to do other things in another way, sometimes better ways, other time not so good, so positive. I started then to invite artists to have a discussion and to talk about the situation that we are living in now at the moment, what they feel like, how they thinking their work in this new context, this new environment, this new situation, how they, if something is changing, the way they're thinking, the way they're dealing with their work and the relation with the contest, they continue their life, their research the same way, or is actually different. Also, I want to ask, of course, artists that I think I appreciate their work in the total picture, of course, artists that are using already technology for many years. I'm very interested, and also to find a way to share with people using this technology that is also in the art field can be used to communicate more, also to other people that not are used to listen and to know the way the artists are thinking their work using technology. And that's why we are here. As I said, and I repeat, thank you again, Stelarc, for being here. I invited you. We didn't know before. Actually, I know you because I see your performance of your performance in a museum in north of Milano, Gallarate, in I think it was 2008 that time, and you very kindly accept my invitation for doing this talk. And we, for your suggestion and our discussion we had previously before, we choose this title that I think is very interesting, that I want to read just to be sure I say in the right way. My English is, you see, is not perfect. So the title is Contemporary Chimeras, Myth, Metal, and Code, Neither Presence and Absence, Neither Birth nor Death. Welcome, Stelarc. Now I want you to talk.
No, thanks very much. Well, you know, the title was a kind of combination of some of the interesting discussion we had before in deciding what to do in this streaming. So yes, I think it's a very different situation now, because even previously, you know, our presence was always important, you know, in our relationships with other people. It's proximity and presence that is the importance in our interaction, in our communication. But increasingly now, we're communicating, we're interacting in absence of each other. We're communicating remotely. And I think this idea of presence and absence becomes increasingly problematic. You know, how do we engage in these kinds of interactions when we can't, we're not in the presence of each other? And you know, like since 1995, the fractal flesh performance was not only interacting with images or with a voice or with text, but online, interacting physically with my body. So, for example, in the fractal flesh performance, I was in Luxembourg, and people in the Pompidou Centre in Paris, the Media Lab in Helsinki, the Doors of Perception Conference in Amsterdam, could access my body and remotely choreograph the movements of my body. So even then I was interested in remote but physical interaction. Mm-hmm. And I think this will become increasingly important with haptic devices on the internet. Then we will have a sense of touch or a force feedback, which will give us a stronger human presence.
I read on your catalog that I see on online. I read this sentence that I really like. Virilio, in Virilio terms, a real artist never sleeps in front of a new technology, but deforms them and transforms them. And if one is a critic, one doesn't ever accept things at face value, and one doesn't ever sleep in front of new technologies. I feel this sentence is a very really true in terms of how artists approach the technology. No, I come from the town of Leonardo da Vinci, where Leonardo da Vinci didn't born here, but works for many years in the Sforza of Milano, doing his research as a scientist, as an artist, as an experimenter, in the Renaissance. And I feel that's how artists that approach the work with technology are. We are all like coming from the Leonardo da Vinci idea of doing art, in terms of approaching, being a little bit artist, a little bit scientist, a little bit experimenting, and this approach of artists that trying to understand the time that they are living. No, they are connecting themselves and trying to also using technology to understand what you can do in a creative way with these tools, because they are very powerful. Now we are living today in a world that technology is changing so fast, is affecting our life so much, so in a strong way. We see, like we just mentioned before, and you said about your performance using internet, that you remind it started in 94, 95. This is the time that internet became a tool that from a more experimental technology used mostly by university or in military or very specialized field. It became something more popular, spread in different area, and became also a economical tool, doing e-commerce and stuff like that, then financial stuff like that. So today we know how much is affecting our life, the digital world. We both, I have to say, we both come from analogic, we both come from, we born in the analogic time. We still still was technology, but very different in terms of immaterial. Digital became something more like immaterial, as we said. And of course, we can say we are more like in the middle. Our generation is more in the middle from something that was the time before, and what is going to be the next generation also, the one that grow up, the born in this time, are going to be really the digital generation. And how they're going to use, of course, is going to be something more in their body, in their mind, more deep for what can be the change, the revolution, because I think this is a real revolution. And so how we are experiencing today with this COVID, because internet was developed to be a technology in case of a nuclear war. They can use this internet, this web net connection to continue the life in case of a nuclear war or something like that. And we are experiencing this today with the COVID. We didn't have, thank goodness, we didn't have a nuclear war, but we had something that also is so dangerous, and how much is affecting, if it's, how much is affecting, but also how much is used by the powers in the world, because I'm still thinking that how much is the truth and how much is not the truth that we know, in terms of, okay, there is the virus, how dangerous it is, but I also feel like maybe this can be an experiment done by power in worldwide, that are experimenting on us. This how, I don't know, how is affecting to control people. I don't know. Just Orwell 1984 a little bit give me the idea of.
But I think, Marcello, I think that in addition to these kind of social and political concerns, with surveillance, with control, with kind of managing the pandemic, I think for me, what the pandemic has exposed is that at this time when we can be fatally infected by a virus, so in other words, we can be existentially threatened by this invisible virus. This exposes how ontologically we are at a risk in the contamination of our digital objects and our algorithms. So it's not only the political concerns, but how the technology, the digital code contaminates, our genes, our physiology, the way that we think and the way that we behave. So there's now not only an existential risk to an individual, but an ontological risk that is exposed. How much do we want this technology to be not only surrounding us, but now being inserted into our bodies as micro-miniaturized chips? I don't see a problem.
Well, I know.
Maybe
that
you do.
Well, of course, your approach, I know, is like you mentioned just now, with your the way you your work. I guess the work you are just mentioning, the sculpture that you insert on your body, and but I like also the idea of the obsolete body that, of course, connected to the contemporary chimeras, no, is something that I think is related, because the meat and the metal and the code is becoming one thing, and this is the idea. That's also I believe I think it's pretty much the same that you are just mentioned. Of course, how much is changing, how is transforming our way, like the cyborg. No, cyborg is already a reality in the surgical. All people that are doing prostheses for all kind of problems. That, of course, is not for an aesthetical or creative way that you are using it, but mostly for practical issue that the cyborg is using. Your way, of course, I think is an aesthetical change that you are combining this transformation of analogic body or meat, no, body, flesh, with your artificial combination, combining those using this way of expressing yourself with these tools. Very important, but I also want to say my approach, I guess, is okay. Those are experiments, very important, I think, but for the majority of people, many people, normal public, doesn't really get it. No, I see my experience, I guess, with the technology in the art is very difficult, because I feel, also being a teacher, also being a teacher in art school, I see that it's not really easy to communicate this idea of art using technology and experimenting a new way of expressing the art and the creativity. I see the majority of people really don't get it. No, many people have very difficult time to understand why certain artists are doing what they do, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do this kind of a conversation, because my feeling is that artists live with this mission, no, as a mission in the world, to connect with other people, no, connect with the rest of the community, and not just in a small group of we say elite or small group of people. Like, unfortunately, the visual art, the majority of visual art, I think it is today in the contemporary society, became something very specialized for few people in a small circle of a small community. And unfortunately, the majority of normal people, they don't understand. They don't quite understand. They ask most of the time, but what is mean this? Why he is doing that? And of course,
yeah, but
of course,
but Mazzella, I think no. I think what's interesting about art, of course, is that it is difficult to describe, you know, in words. Art is more about affect and you know, the impact of the experience of confronting an artwork. So art should generate some kind of confusion, you know, some kind of questioning. If you don't question what, you know, what is art, then probably it's not very interesting.
I totally agree that you don't need to think. I mean, if you create something, you don't worry about if it means, or if it's easy or not to understand. This is okay. But in another way, I feel like artists talk, artists communicate, artists have an idea, have a brain to think all kind of all sort of ideas and their thoughts. With these tools, we have no filters, and I don't know if it is clear what, and I trying to explain what I want to say. With the idea of not having filters is something I love it. You know, in a free society, where I think the dream of the first internet revolution was the idea of having a tool that give the opportunity to everybody, to normal people, to communicate. Not necessarily having a mediator that needs to take your art or your ideas and be a mediator with the rest of the world. With these tools, like for everything, not just for the art, for everything, you have the opportunity to actually talk, expressing yourself, say what you want, good, bad, interesting or not interesting, but you have the opportunity to having a freedom, no, to communicate your ideas, your anything you want. In this case, we're talking about creativity, we're talking about art, with, you know, worldwide. No, we have the opportunity to use these tools. That is not just selling Amazon or for commercialize or for other things, just more less important, I think, or very ludic in terms of importance, of just normal socializing for chatting and other things. But in this case, we can use these tools to communicate and also to be more without filters with the rest of the world, because I think people, really normal people, the spectators, the viewers, are really interested to know what artists, what come to the mind, to the brain of an artist, what is thinking, and how he make his work, or whatever he want to say about his work, or opinions in general. So I feel is very interesting, just in terms of connection and relation. Then I feel this is one point. Then there is another point that I think how you make art, your art piece, your artwork, how is how can be can go to the collectors, so how can be bought by people, or just be collected by anybody, whatever. So this is another point that I feel really with this new technology as to how is possible to change, because visual art, we know, is still very an elitarian field, an elitarian system, very close in terms of how the artwork is being processed, and also how it's being viewed by people, not just by museum galleries or private collections. So I think technology can also be used to change in another way how art is used and consumed by people. No, just another subject that I feel is important. No, so
yeah, I mean, I think,
and also
yeah, I mean, I think why why artists find technology seductive is that you know, new instruments, computational systems can generate unexpected information, unexpected images, and this is interesting aesthetically, conceptually for artists. On the other hand, as you said, we can disseminate our ideas and our visual images much more rapidly, much more globally now. Having said that, you know, as an artist, I'm sort of not in the business of educating or informing the public, rather trying to generate some kind of, in my case, a performance that questions how technology might be used, and also how this technology can define or redefine what a body is and how a body operates. And for example, one idea that has been generated from doing these projects and performances is to make a distinction between being biologically alive and being operational, having operational aliveness that machines have. So machines can perform in very complex ways, and to us this generates a kind of operational aliveness. It's not the same as being alive biologically. And so this is what's interesting. Not so much about the business of art or the educational aspect of art, because in a sense we have art critics and we have museum directors and curators who, that is their business, that is what they do. And I think as artists, we have the kind of obligation to continuously do unexpected actions. Because you know, if art is not surprising, it's probably not interesting art.
No, of course, that's your point of view. Of course, everybody can think the way they thinking, not a problem. I still thinking, because the way you are also approaching your work and how you create your pieces, your artists. I told you, I like. It's very interesting, and of course, it's also affected. No, ever shock people, no, as a certain of surprising, and it take, like you said, shock in a way, in a positive way. Of course, maybe some people can also think, oh, what a crazy guy is doing that, but it's very important, like you said. This aspect, I totally agree. Not a problem at all. But still, for my point of view, of course, I express this other opinion, that the system of art is also part of my. It's also important to me, because if I do an art piece, if I do create something in my studio, my space, I also am thinking to show my piece, to make the way I'm doing it, if it's an installation, if it's a performance or whatever. Then, of course, I'm also thinking, because I need to also to survive, how this spread, or how this sold or put in the market, or how is showed to the public, in terms of what is the effect that this piece, if it's a more traditional, or if it's an experimental piece, anyway, if it goes to the museum, if it goes to the gallery, or wherever it goes. So of course, it's something that from my point of view, I cannot not just think on creation, and not also on how is showed or put it in the market, or whatever it is. Especially in the experimental and technology, this is more difficult, because I think you experience it also. I probably in the market, or in the art market situation, where galleries has to sell to survive, and also artists has to survive somehow, because unless you don't have money, or you're rich, unless you don't have somebody to support you, somehow you need to live. No, you need money to buy your tools, your material, and create. No, this is something very. Of course, you live in Australia. Probably the situation is very different, and probably. And actually, I'm curious, but maybe if you want, you're gonna tell me later, or whatever. Also now, if you want, how easy has been your experience of making art using technology, and you use very high technology, using robots and artificial intelligence, AI, and other very high tech technology. How is easy, or has been how was your experience on approaching this technology in your country, or how you did it? Because it's not easy for my experience using, but even if I have access, but then how to what to do next? Because yes, I can do a beautiful show, but then there are museums are very difficult that buy pieces like this, or collectors that buy installation of technology, art and technology, and to find somebody that support your work, for my experience, has been very hard. Most of the gallery is asking, oh, but can you do a piece that you can hang on the wall, because otherwise I cannot sell your installation or your performance. Now that's my my question also to you. I mean, how has been, and you
but
find
I think, I think, Mazzella, that in a way this is always the problem if artists are doing sort of cutting edge work or cutting edge art. Like, for example, when I was living in Japan from 1970, I lived in Japan for about 19 years. And when I first went to Japan and when I first engineered my third hand, I began the third hand in 1975. At the time, my Japanese artist friends would kind of smile and they would say to me, high tech, low art. So at the time, using technology in art was not, it wasn't certainly practiced in Japan in the early 70s. Of course, now it's different. And in Australia, there is, especially now, an interest in art and technology or art and science. I feel this amalgamation of art and science is a little misplaced because I think it's kind of institutionally driven. You know, universities don't know what to do with artists, and so to authenticate their arts practice, they want to associate it with doing serious research and associating it with science. I don't think art has to be scientific. It doesn't have to be high tech to be interesting. To be interesting art. So that's a kind of a problem. Although I might have used technology from the early 70s and incorporated medical and scientific practices, I think this sort of art science movement that's recently happening is perhaps simplistic and misplaced, that it's done for institutional reasons. You know, art can be messy, it can be sometimes physically difficult, it can be pornographic, it can be even dangerous. Universities don't want artists to be involved in these kinds of activities. And do you want to get ethical approval for, every art project that you do if you are part of a university? So now, having said that, there's a new science gallery in Melbourne that is connected to Melbourne University, and I have a large commission to do an interactive robotic installation. So I can't be too unhappy about that.
But you are famous and well known. But still, I think I mentioned you just this short experience I had with this artist in New York when I was there, Nam June Paik, that I had the lucky to know and to work with for a few years. And he was mentioning always, I mean, a few times that we had this kind of conversation, was mentioning something like, oh, you don't know how much it's difficult or how expensive it is for me to do this kind of work, because a painter in that time was was very commercialized with this new backing of painters like Transavanguardia or New Expressionism, no? So we have artists like Clemente, De Maria or Kiefer, no? And he was saying, oh, Marcel, I'm doing a piece that it cost me $150,000 and this artist is selling for $1 million and it's only a canvas, no? So of course, so this kind of...
Yeah, but I think, Mazzella, I think this is a frustration that most art and technology sort of artists have, that, doing a robotic installation, having computational systems, sensor systems, a lot of mechanical engineering. Yeah, I mean, this is costly, and you're using expensive materials, stainless steel, duralumin, aluminium. I mean, all of these materials are much more expensive. Having said that, with 3D printing now, we can 3D print in a variety of materials, and we can scale our objects smaller or larger.
I've been doing sculpture with this 3D technology. I've been doing sculpture with 3D printers for my art. Just for you. No, sorry. I just stopped.
Yeah, no. And of course, we don't always own this technology. So being at a university like you are, you might have access to a 3D printer. Or when I was at a university for 5 years, I had some equipment that I could use. But an artist doesn't always own or have access personally to this technology. So you have to cooperate with institutions or with companies. When I was living in Japan, I would borrow the medical equipment, the sound equipment, the laser equipment from Japanese companies. I would just visit them and request if I could use their technology. I would advertise their name on the poster or whatever. But it's difficult, and yes, if you're just a painter or doing two-dimensional visual work, you are using less expensive materials. Having said that, unless the conceptual raison d'etre, unless the final artistic outcome is interesting, it doesn't matter whether it's a painting or high tech. It doesn't matter. In the end, you have to make so I'm always fascinated with painters who are still doing interesting art. That challenges me. Oh, someone who's still painting can be interesting, or someone who's still doing photography can still be interesting.
So that you're in Australia, just because you're mentioning painters, I feel very attracted by the Aboriginal painters of Aborigine. Yes. That are using that technique for so many years, for so long time, and they're still attractive. To confirm what you just said.
But very interestingly, a lot of younger or Aboriginal artists, Indigenous artists now are not only using traditional techniques like dot painting, but they're using it in installation works, or on different materials. Of course, it's very beautiful on traditional bark, painting on bark, on the bark of trees, but using it in a different way. And also some Indigenous artists are working with video, with cinema, and from their sensibility, their particular sensitivity, and also their social and political positioning, they're doing works that are challenging to us. So I agree with you that yes, Indigenous art can be very interesting.
I had an experience with more African artists that were doing very interesting pieces, also performance, using low-tech or like recycled object, like a can of Coke or other things, making costumes very like tribal, but with this recycled costume, or just using makeup, dress, and performing with sound, etc., in a nice, very interesting ways. Also doing sculpture, and but of course, it's a very is a unique, and of course it's connected to their tradition in a way very interesting, and with the contamination with the Western art, or other maybe low tech, or other tools. But still, like we said, of course, I agree. It's not the instruments, it's not the material that makes art interesting or not. It's not the technology, or whatever you use. Of course, it's the idea is behind, or the concept, or how you are creative. But still, we have these tools today. Like photographers had photography in the last century that wasn't used before, like film. No, that is a new technology, and of course, give opportunity for many other artists to create with that technology. With the technology, of course, is unique, and I think not because it's impossible doing art without it, but of course, if you have this new technology, somebody has also to use it. And if you think you feel more interested to create with the computer instead of a painting, you do with the computer. Of course, it's just the artists that choose the tools, the technology they want to use. Of course, then if it's nice, if it's well done, or if it's you can call art, it's up to the spectators, the curators, or the artists to decide and to accept it. But still,
and I think, and I think too that I mean, we have to remember that artists are generally expressing the zeitgeist, the particular social and political and historical moment that they are living in. And so, new instruments, computational systems, robots, I mean, these are the technologies that we can be creative with now, that are different from what we've used before, So I think one can make the argument that art, the meaningfulness of art, or one factor for art to be meaningful, is that it expresses its historical moment.
I agree.
Zeitgeist.
I agree. That's why indeed it's very, of course, it's very. It's an open field. It's like you are in an open space with nothing, and you need to fill it up because, of course, it's a new contest. Like we said, art can be done with the painting, with the sculpture, with the old traditional tools, and of course, still you can say something interesting, but also is a very known technology, or very known expression. Using robots, or extended your body like you do, and the experimental, all the experiments you can do using technology. Of course, it opened to a whole new and unknown, like being a pioneer of a new way of communicating and creating. Of course, it's not easy because people are not ready most of the time. Also, people in the art world are not always ready to understand, to accept it. But that's why I think it's very interesting, and for my point of view, it's very important using this tool of communication, like open and without filter, that can be used to no more be able to express yourself without the filter of, like you said, the curator, galleries, and other people, that how they can know what you're doing if it's something so new that only you can express, only you can talk about it. And maybe people can understand, they can maybe ask, like I'm looking, there is in the chat, somebody is also writing things, people that I don't know actually, like this Beto Rea, that is saying Stelarc is a pioneer in user technology in his art. His suspension work changed the life and perception of the community. That's what I just want to read. Somebody that wrote in the chat now on Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think what artists do best, Marcello, is I think artists generate contestable possibilities. In other words, contestable futures. Possibilities that can be performed, can be personally experienced, can be better articulated, sometimes appropriated, but sometimes discarded. So there's no guarantee that what we do, what we say, is meaningful. And a lot of new philosophy, for example, is it takes a generation or two for it to be fully comprehended in its conceptual posture, in how it wants to contribute to for example, the history of philosophy. But the future is not a future if it is not of the unexpected. We have to be open to possibilities. We have to be open to unexpected events.
Like life,
and that's what makes art interesting, because art is art is kind of in the business of the unexpected.
I agree. I totally agree. But still, as I said, I don't want to force this point, but I still think we have a tool today that is giving us, not like the majority of artists is doing now, putting their paintings on the internet just as a virtual gallery, or doing their shows virtually, but it doesn't have any connection to the technology they're using. So I feel like art using technology means that you are really doing art with this technology. So making virtual pieces, or using robots or other things. Maybe, of course, we opened also to traditional technology, okay, but for me, using these strong, powerful tools means experimenting on those, just understanding what you can say with these new tools, making whatever you can do. This is, I feel, today you probably know this idea of doing crypto art, crypto works that can be sold, doing this way that are always, I feel, manipulated by the economical system, trying to make business on art using the technology. But for me, it's just like you said, creating from something unexpected, unknown, that you can do something new with these tools that can be used, and also expressing and create so that viewers or the spectators can see something that can be surprised and be saying, wow, this is something really that attract me, and giving me the feeling that this is art of this age, this century. This is the art that represents me. I feel like I see a beautiful painting or a beautiful woman, well painted, but still I see, it's well painted, is a beautiful piece, but I don't feel this is my time, or this represent me. I want to see something maybe shock me, that is giving me maybe thrilled me in a way a little strange, but represent the time I'm living. That's what I feel like is important, interesting, and I think that many people expecting from artists this also. They don't know because, of course, they are no artists, or they probably don't know where to start. But artists, I think, are obligated to change the way they are also showing their art and communicating their work, not using only the traditional way of not just making art, but also to showing their work or what they do. That's what my opinion is. And somehow, I just want to, I don't know if I have been clear enough to expressing myself for what I want to say. But
yeah, no, I think that's I think we're both agreeable about that, or agreed about that. I think what's interesting for me is not only the aesthetic gesture of hybrid human machine systems, but what this means for how we define a human body. One example that I've used before in my lectures is that in 2011, the first twin turbine artificial heart was inserted into the chest of a terminally ill patient, and he lived long enough that they could test this new artificial heart. And this new artificial heart is smaller, it's more robust, more reliable, but it doesn't circulate the blood by pulsing. It circulates the blood continuously. So in other words, in the near future, you might rest your head on your loved one's chest. They're breathing, they're warm to the touch, they're speaking, they're sighing, but they have no heartbeat. So in other words, humans without heartbeats. This really radically changes our concept of what a body is and how a body operates. And of course, it's not only replacing our heart, but also augmenting our cerebral capabilities, inserting chips into our brains. Now, this hasn't been done yet simply for enhancement purposes, but it has been done for medical purposes, for pathological reasons, for assisting with people who have Parkinson's disease or schizophrenia. So these are sort of technologies that, in addition to an artist's aesthetic gestures, have real social meaningfulness for us. We still have this romantic nostalgia for a purely biological body. We still imagine that this body has a mind of its own, and it's only a biological body that can think and that can do intelligent things. Well, one can argue that machines can do intelligent things without thinking. They can do complex operations, very precise, very repetitive, very reliable, but they're doing it not with biological thinking, but with computational programming. So I think increasingly now there'll be a blurring between how we distinguish bodies and machines, or bodies and robots. There'll be a time when it'll be meaningless to distinguish whether you're a human body or whether you're a machine replica of a human body. If we can perform in the same way, then that's adequate.
Yeah, Stelarc, I think I understand perfectly, and that's how it is. I mean, artificial and natural replica, but prosthesis is our reality. Is gonna be our life. Is already our life, normal life. But I'm also thinking that even if I'm not a kind of a romanticist kind of person, of course, it's going to be a problem for who is that kind of person. Because I think, how you can be a poet if you say you're art breathing, and then it's just an artificial art. But still, my thinking is, of course, we cannot stop this evolution of our world, our human evolution, using using a machine. But in somehow, I'm also, I have to say, worried about the approach that we still need to have with the context, with the nature, with the environment that we are living in, we are living with. In terms of the society that we know today, our world, the Western world, but today I guess is the majority of the powerful country of the world, having this attitude of being okay, very high tech, very artificial oriented, but we know that we are experiencing the problem on the ecological, very problematic in terms of how the nature is surviving with this human evolution and strongly technological evolution and change. So I'm worrying about this. If humanity, and your sentences, that's why I like the philosophic sentences you put it in your catalog, but still is something very, and I remember also this sentence I read from the Francoforter Marcuse philosopher, that the technology is not something that we made it, we created. So of course we are part of the nature, and we are responsible how we use it. So of course technology can be very positive if are in good hands and well use it, and can be very dangerous if are in the wrong hands and bad and wrongly used. We know this concept, and this is, I think, the responsibility of artists, because in all the process of the economical, not the world how it is, financial, industrial, economical, consumistic world, is all concentrated on how you can make advantage, using technology and having much power and more economical power and all that kind of stuff. In the other hands, we are seeing a problem in nature. We are seeing an ecological destruction. No? We are having experiences, and today probably the virus of COVID, somebody is saying, is also related to the how is poisoning the world, how is affecting the very high, or the destroying the planets, the nature somehow, the trees or whatever, not affecting the normal life and other things. So this is my point, that I feel art has the responsibility of approaching, knowing, using technology, but making more human. So I don't want to feel like I'm becoming a robot, an artificial instruments, losing my nature, losing my humanity. So I want to feel like artificial has to connect, has to interact, or somehow being part of the human, the nature, but also
but I think we have to
not dangerous, not destroyers.
Yeah. No. I granted, ecological concerns are, need to be addressed, of course. But I think there's no necessarily something that we call human nature. This is something that's a historical construct that's constantly being adjusted. So what it means to be human will be very different, in 2,000 years than it is today. What it means to be human, to me, is what you alluded to before. If we can be creative, if we can generate aesthetic gestures, if we can create contestable futures, not necessary futures, but possibilities that can be critiqued. In other words, we need to factor choice, in this process that we call constructing the future. So, granted, there are problems with using technology crudely, but I think, as you do, that artists can hack technology, can use technology in unexpected ways, can use medical technology for artistic reasons, can use engineering and robots for artistic performances, can use computational systems to generate virtual realities. We don't have to use technology in the way that it is used by corporates and political organizations.
Definitely. So sabotage.
Well, I don't necessarily think that artists should be anarchists or artists should be in the business of purely shocking people. On the other hand, I think artists have to present alternative possibilities.
Very important alternatives, because we see that in which way technology and how badly high technology used by powerful corporation and in all kind of sort of speculative ways that is destroying the society and the nature and the planet. So of course I see that's the mission of art in this critique way that you just mentioned, and I totally agree. But I want to be also a little more active, not just to represent, to say, oh, how bad it is the world because you're making wars, weapons, and etc. I want also being more active in a way that can communicate to people that there is like you said, an alternative. There is an alternative that this is creative and art. That give you make you understand, at least think that there is another way of living, there is an alternative. And this is with creation, that is more peaceful, of course, not oriented to just the interests of power, interests on making, taking advantage of nature, of other people, etc. But this is, I think, the idea of giving an alternative of what is the oldest expressive language that we have in the human history, that is art. Art has been always in all its expression, music, dance, paintings, graffiti, etc. has been always the way how people interact with the unknown, with the unknown or something that is going a little out the normal life, the daily routine. So basically, using in a good way, and that's why I say not just to represent something in a critic way and stop, but also to being able to. I don't want to say that, but just to be able to interact and make people thinking in another way, no, just to be able to express something that give an alternative, no, another kind of view of the world. That, of course, I only hope in the art for some to save a little bit our life and our the humanity, but of course to be able not to detach from the nature and the environment in our life in terms of universal, but to be able to connect, interact, and be all part of respecting all the nature we belong, we are part of. You know, in this idea of I don't know if I was able to express myself in this last.
Yeah,
part.
no, I mean,
That's what is,
I know it's more difficult for you because you're speaking in a second language, and I think you've been very coherent and expressed your ideas very well. I think that one thing I would like to add is that we have to. Yes, we should be providing alternatives, but we need to do this fully understanding what is happening. So, for example, with increasing complexity in our technological society, we have to accept that with increasing complexity, there has to be increasing control, micro controls, because something complex can't operate effectively without a number of constraints. So we can, a simple example, we can move at 100 kilometers an hour, but we have to stop when a certain color light is on. We can keep going if another color light is allows us to. We have to do this at a particular side of the road. You know, so for example, to drive fast, to enable movement safely over long distances at high speeds. We have a lot of controls to do this, you know. And so with all of our activities and with our surveillance, you know, surveillance from one point of view adds protection to the individual. On the other hand, it can be politically abused. I think we should have more surveillance, but not external, rather more surveillance inside our human bodies, because we do not have an early alert warning system that something that is a problem at a cellular level. Our body doesn't alert us until the symptoms surface, and then it's too late.
For surveillance, you mean something more like technological, or more individually, like ethical, moral, understandable?
No, I mean,
to understand when is the time to stop. Let's say you going too fast and can ruin all the environment, and then you need to know that you need to stop, but not just because you have a control to stop because you are using too much oil or too much gas. You need to stop because you are affecting maybe in a wrong way the environment and making in terms of giving something. An approach to the technology that is more ethical, no, in this kind of.
Yeah, but I think
as a question,
you would hope that, you know, in human history, you know, with any inventions, with any new technological creations, there'll be some positive and negative possibilities, and hopefully we can manage these. We cannot guarantee equality of access, and we can't guarantee that every new technology will be inherently a safe technology. So we have to be socially, politically intelligent enough to manage these technological possibilities, both for positive and negative uses.
That's hard.
So what I meant before, though, is that I think the human body needs micro and nanoscaled sensors to detect pathological problems at a cellular level. And we do not have an early warning detection system with our bodies, you know. So, for example, we can be both sitting here, we could have a cancerous tumor growing in our bodies, and we will not know about it until it's too late, until you feel the lump in your chest, and then the cancer has already metastasized and spread throughout your body, and in 2 or 3 months, you're dead. If we can detect these cancerous cells at a cellular level, then they will be more easily targeted and eradicated, more easily detected. And that's what I meant physically by nano and micro sensors literally inserted inside the human body. In other words, we can imagine recolonizing the human body with nanosensors, nanomachines, to augment our bacteria and viral populations. You know, we have, of course, a good bacteria. We cannot live without bacteria living on and inside of our bodies. So if we can engineer and scale down these sensors to nanoscale, then the human body will welcome this technology, and it will enable us to more easily detect and protect our biological bodies. Because at the moment, we are very vulnerable bodies. We're soft and easily damaged. We can be contaminated and fatally infected by organisms that we cannot see, we cannot feel, until it's too late, until the infection has spread.
Stelarc, in this, and after I want to switch to this other part of the title that is the last part here that I'm curious, I want to speak with you. But I totally, I mean, I agree that technology, since we started to invent the wheel, has been very important, very powerful, and change our life. But still, like we said, it all depends on how technology is used, because it can be very useful and very positive if you use it in a good way, and can be very negative or dangerous if you use it in a wrong way. Because, like let's say, for example, the one of the aspects very popular now at the moment, that is the vaccine. The vaccine for the COVID. People that are against, people that are in favor. And of course, if you think that with a virus that can spread, and maybe like in the past has been so very dangerous, very killing so many people, like the black pest, or the other kind of illness, and you have how much science and medicine has developed to give the tools to instruments, drugs, and other things, like the vaccine. Now we have 2 different vaccines. One is more, let's say, natural, and another one is more artificial. The RNA, and the other one, it is more natural, changing, just putting in your arm, in your blood, some part of the virus that the reaction is to so that your body your blood recognize your antibodies recognize the virus, and so can and it helps so that you don't actually die or take the illness in a bad way. And the other one that is with the RNA more artificial, that using another technology of to actually detect the virus and helping so to fight this illness. So I'm saying it's very important. Technology and artificial everything is very totally. No, I cannot be against the progress in this case, but of course depends how is used, and this is the dangers and how we can, like you said, be in control. But we need to be in control to understand before, with our brain, with our instinct, and being a little more understanding how we need to respect life, respect the environment and everything. So it's been always to connect artificial and the ethical aspect of understanding the limit, understand what is the limit for a positive and for the interests of the environment and everybody, not just of a small or few people that can take advantage. What I want to go now is the last part of the sentence, the title that you helped to write is after neither presence and absence, neither birth or death. No, I want to know what you want to I have to say with this part of
yeah. I guess because now online we can be in more places than one. I'm here physically in Melbourne and virtually in Milan. You vice versa, and this is happening to the point where it's becoming meaningless to distinguish between presence and absence. They have a different connotation now than it used to be before. If I said I was absent, I would not be any longer physically in front of you. But I'm not physically in front of you, and I'm not present physically, and I'm not absent virtually. So that's, I think, what interaction online means, that we can be sometimes here, sometimes there, sometimes everywhere, and at any time we can connect and we can interact without proximity, without physical presence. And we can do this in that way. The idea of neither birth nor death, it's intriguing for me. For example, we can preserve a dead body forever using plastination, right? At the same time, we can sustain a comatose body on a technological life support system, and simultaneously cryogenically preserved bodies can await reanimation at some imagined future. So the dead, the near dead, and the preserved body are existing simultaneously. And also artificial life that we're creating in the lab, sort of synthetic life. All of these different kinds of life blurring to death. So a dead body can still have a physical existence. Usually if you die, then you disappear physically. You either are in the ground, organically being absorbed, or your body is cremated, right? But now we can preserve a dead body, and a dead body can have a physical presence next to a comatose body who is sustained by a technological life support system. And at the same time, we're freezing bodies to imagine that perhaps in the future we'll come up with some way of reanimating those bodies. So that's interesting. Friedrich Nietzsche reminds us that the living are only a species of the dead. But also we're approaching a point now where perhaps we will be neither born nor we will necessarily biologically die. An example of this might be that if we can engineer an artificial womb and bring to bear a healthy child external to the body, then your life will begin without birth. You will not begin your life with a birth. And if we can replace malfunctioning parts of your body with 3D printed parts or artificial components or stem cell grown organs, then you need not die a biological death. You might die, if you have an accident, but biologically, you might be able to be sustained indefinitely. So how do we define human existence that doesn't begin with birth and doesn't end with death? And in fact, now, practically now, most of us will not die biological deaths. We'll die when our life support systems are switched off.
Yeah.
So we have to rethink what we mean by the human, what it means to be alive, and how we can generate alternative anatomical architectures, hybrid human-machine systems that might extend intelligence in different forms with different functions. So, for example, NASA for many years has had this program, SETI, searching for alien life off this planet, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the first signs of artificial life, the first signs of alien life may well come from this planet, not from other planets.
Oh, yeah, it's very possible. I agree. I agree. I like both topics. The first, I think, neither presence and absence is very important. Like you are experiencing with the extension of your body with prosthesis, but still in something attached to your natural body. But in this case, where using these virtual digital tools that can really expand yourself, and this is something that I was very interested. I'm still very interested, just using the socials in general. Just this idea of extending your body virtually. So this is something we are experiencing. So this is a reality because. Okay, before was the telephone, we had the television, we had other analogic or the tools, but not powerful. And of course, it's going to be always much powerful if we are maybe using in the future other devices like virtual reality, gloves, and other things. And probably, who knows more also in terms in our body, connected to other devices like our iWatch or other things that can detect our heartbeat. no, and other things. So of course, this is a reality we are already living, you know, and of course, this is already our life in terms of how it changed, because we are yes, we are using, we wake up in the morning, we are using tools already become familiar, but we probably, not everybody, I guess, understand how much powerful and how strongly is changing our life. Because you can, I remember 20, 30 years ago, living in my youth, my age, and using not even cell phone, because it didn't exist a cell phone, like a wireless cell phone, but just using an analogic phone with the coin that you put on inside and talk with your relatives or whatever. And today I'm talking to you. You are in Melbourne, and I'm in Milan, like you said. Just being able to express, to see each other, and to express ourselves in all ways we want, without the limits. Because also, you remember, in 30 years ago, you need to worry about how much money you spend to phone to call somebody in another country. No, so today, even here, but not just. In another continent, but even in another city from the same country, it was too expensive. No, how expensive it was. Today, we using with this technology. Definitely, it changed our life. I feel that how much it changed the way how I approach people, how relate to people, how connect to other people. And I feel this is a very, very strong and interesting aspect of this new technology that is giving me this opportunity to actually being without a limit. No, my body in this case is a virtual body, but is without a limit, and is actually connected to many other bodies. So become one big body in worldwide. So this is unbelievable. So if I'm thinking how much and what is happening, no, how strong
it is, and I think people don't realize this.
Don't realize.
And especially because, as you said, we both began in an analog world, and we've been a part of this transition to the digital. I mean, to illustrate what you just said, I did a performance called Rewired Remixed, and I was in the Perth Institute of Contemporary Art. This is in 2016, and for 5 days, 6 hours every day, continuously, I could only see with the eyes of someone in London. I could only hear with the ears of someone in New York, but anyone, anywhere, could remotely control my right arm via the exoskeleton. So in other words, this was a kind of an aesthetic gesture to a distributed agency and a sharing of senses. So imagine if you could wire up your system so that you could see with my eyes, so you could hear with the ears of a friend in Tokyo, so that we could interact physically. Your right arm is moving my right arm, my left arm is moving your left arm remotely, and this is quite possible now. It's quite possible now. Not only do we have a visual and acoustical connection, we can also have a haptic and physical interaction.
No, but I say, can you call this a total body? Can you call this like there is no limit to the body? I mean, you can move 10 arms, 20 arms, and looking with 20 eyes around the world. Yeah. So, I mean, the idea is this tool, use it like you're experiencing in the performance you did, that actually I remember I saw on your catalog, very interesting. But that's the aspect, that you really extend your body to become an unlimited body, using many. I mean, you can select, you can choose which ISIS, of course, you want to use, or which arms can interact with yours, or more with your devices as you use other devices. But the idea is that this technology, used in a certain way, can give you the extension of your body. Of course, we are talking about a digital body or a prosthesis, in terms of using devices that can give you some other possibility, other chance to change or do operation. So, but like I said, also, because I see you are very involved with the medical world, and of course, like I remember the surgical that is using internet to actually operate it in a distance, using surgical tools, or operated from one country to another through internet. And this can be like more doctors, not just one, that can interact and do an operation on a body of somebody and perform with a surgical distance. This is incredible, no? I think this is very incredible, because you are unlimited in terms of possibilities, and also how much extended are your sense, no? Your sense to actually detect life and other another way of interact with the world.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I'm pleased by your using the word extension rather than enhancement, because I think that these augmentations are experiments in alternative anatomical architectures. It's not about enhancing the body, but certainly about extending its possibilities. I mean, we're increasingly expected to perform with mixed realities. We perform with our biological bodies, but also augmented by machines that propel us at great speeds, or with instruments that can extend our sensory perception, or by computational systems that can amplify our cerebral calculations. So this is what is happening now, and I think it's important to forget this idea of a purely biological body. This is an idea that is convenient to imagine that, I am just a biological body and I have a mind of my own, and I can I have freedom of choice, and this happens, but it depends on your frame of reference. So I have freedom of will, but in a trivial sense, not in a significant way. And I would describe this as the body in excess. The body performs in excess of its biology. It has additional technologies, additional sensors, additional computational systems. So this body becomes a kind of cyber system instead of simplistically a psycho self. So we have to go beyond the idea of the individual self to a much more distributed cybernetic self, I guess.
No, cybernetic and natural. I feel like with, I think always with the idea of an ethical and an aspect of being understanding how to use it and how to control it. I think can be a positive, like we said, a positive aspect, because it definitely give you another way of looking the total picture wider. But you see how much also virtual reality or the power of these tools is already affecting the controversial old institution, like, for example, just to mention once, the church. No? How much is influencing an old institution that is on the beginning maybe is open to this possibility. Then it become like a war against, and is criticizing, just to mention how much is not connected to some moral or ethical aspect of, for example, religion or other similar aspect of institutions that, of course, always want to be in control of people, no? Want to be in control, and they are worried that using technologies in a certain way that is not how they want, it can change, it can be a problem, basically. It can be a problem for those old ancient power. So I just see now, for example, where we are experiencing distance in work at distance now, home working or school working, all that kind of stuff. How much at the beginning they seems to be all totally agreed and totally in favor, positive. Then they start to all became criticizing, and how much they want to go back to the real life for everything. Because my feeling is that they worrying that using these tools, this technology, can open to a wider knowledge and understanding things in another way that they don't actually are in favor or positive to that this happening for their interest. Of course, this is just something that I feel is a problem. Can be a problem how you can develop this whole process. So
yeah, I think sometimes when linear thinking is applied to some new invention, it becomes a kind of an either or situation. So it's imagined that we're going from the biological to the technological to the virtual, and then we'll disappear in some kind of 0 and 1 code of that is an intelligence, a disembodied intelligence. And I think this isn't the way that we should imagine new technologies. It doesn't necessarily subtract previous possibilities. It doesn't negate sometimes performing in physical proximity. We don't have to perform now only virtually. It presents another possibility that we can seamlessly switch from one mode of operation to another mode of operation. So, yeah, I don't think that future intelligence will be disembodied. There will be some kind of embodiment, which will probably be different from just this biological form with only these biological functions. But I think to be an intelligent agent, you need to be both embodied and embedded in the world in some way.
Yeah. Neither birth or death, and this is another interesting aspect that you just mentioned. And we are experiencing, and you said, just to come to my mind something that since I'm using socials like Facebook, happening that you know, you lose friends, or you lose people, and then they still have their account, you know, and you still have on their it just come this to my mind, because you still have their name or their friend to be friends with, and then they, you know, but you know that they die, no, they are not living anymore, but you still have as a friend, and this is something, you know, very curious and interesting about it, because you see, you feel like, okay, in the immaterial, no, the immaterial world that we are living, we are also experiencing something that, of course, your body is dead, is not exist anymore, or is like you said, is cramped, or just ashes. With the digital world, you still exist, but you still alive, or somehow is some of your memory is still there, and of course, is an idea of, you know, your body is like you are continuing to live.
Yeah.
And
I think the difference is that you know, if your mother dies, you will always retain a memory of her, you know, in some way. But now those memories become publicly accessible to everyone in a particular way that doesn't organically fade away. I mean, for example, it's an advantage biologically that we forget. You know, forgetting is a positive biological capability of our brains. It's not a negative thing. And so, you know, there are some software that will only retain a particular social memory and then destroy it, because people don't want something permanently posted on their Facebook or social media site for different reasons. So I think that's what's significant. Not so much that the memory is maintained, but it's maintained for the public, so anyone can access that image that before only you would have that image of your mother.
Of course, you have the photograph, the pictures, etc. But since the technology it developed always more, no, before you have like an old before you have paintings or drawings maybe, or something, very reproduction of some of your relatives or friends. After technology became photographs, after videos, you know, audio, whatever, and now even more with this constant presence digital that we are having through the socials or technology like this. And then you also mentioned before, with the technology, artificial technology, like artificial devices that you can insert your bodies, that can keep maybe in different ways, because you put putting hibernation that can be in the eyes, or like you said in other artificial technology can keep your body in a certain level of life, or in a good condition, let's say, because life with these tools, I don't know how much it is, but another technology that can keep living. I assume that's what you want to say. I'm not so familiar with this aspect, but if I understood well what you're saying, is that with some technology or robotics technology or similar, that can keep living even when your body is dying, no? And keep generating some sort of interaction. I want to know if this that you meant before, something that can, in the artificial way, can keep be alive, can keep being considered as a living things of your body, even when your biological body die after, maybe age.
Yeah, I mean, I think technologies, as you pointed out previously, your memory of a loved one was only through a painting, right? And then with the popularization of and dissemination of photographic imagery, now, of course, anyone can have the memory of your younger mother or father, and new technologies. For example, there's a system called Musion that can create a hologram, recreate a hologram of a dead person, and program some speech, and so you could interact with a hologram of a deceased person. And this is already it's already been done, right? So we can imagine that technologies of representation will improve to the point where you may be able to reconstruct a loved one and 3D bioprint them.
Yeah.
I mean, this is only kind of trivial speculation,
right?
But it does indicate that social media is a way of disseminating and making publicly accessible images of yourself, living or dead, in perpetuity, perhaps.
This
in
is something
of Facebook.
Is probably related to the privacy or legal stuff that who knows where it goes. Yeah, it's something that make me think about it, but really don't know where it goes. Where it end up.
I mean, that's a good thing. That's an exciting thing. I don't see I don't use social media a lot, but I can understand how impactful and how significant it is socially, especially for a lot of friends. So these are sort of contemporary media that will be constantly becoming more sophisticated. And, already every time you Google something, you know that information is fed back into the system. So when you open your computer tomorrow, you will see a recommendation for some photographic equipment that you were Googling information for. Yeah. And is this a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. It just gives me a choice whether to accept or purchase or not purchase. Some people find this insidious.
Yeah,
I just find it a little helpful. Trivial, but a little helpful.
If you use, like we said before, like if you use it in a positive way, let's say if I'm looking for some items on Amazon, and he show me or he record some information, then if next time I'm looking for some items, whatever, and then he show me, maybe you can be interested on this, it maybe can be helpful. But if I start to be obsessed by people like they call me all the time because they probably access to information or somehow they have my data, my information to sell me all kind of stuff, like from the new phone company to the electric whatever, and they want to sell me anything. Like then it become like from my point of view, a little bit too much. No.
Look, Marcello, the internet now is populated by phantom bodies,
Yeah.
Digital doppelgangers
Digital,
that are
right.
constructed from your biodata.
Yeah.
So there is a Marcello biodata body, perhaps not with all its limbs and all its body, but perhaps before the end of your lifetime, you'll be able to access your own biodata body. So I think it's interesting that not only are we in an age of circulating flesh, where we can take the heart from one body and put it into another body, that we can take the hand from a cadaver and stitch it onto the arm of an amputee and reanimate this dead hand. Not only are we circulating body parts, circulating body flesh, but we're also now generating phantom bodies, phantom flesh, biodata bodies, digital doppelgangers.
It comes to my mind, Frankenstein. No, it's interesting, very interesting, very interesting. Stelarc, I'm just looking the time. For you must be, what time is it for you?
I think we've been speaking for a couple of hours, almost.
So I think it's. I don't want to push you for the time, because 2 hours has been quite a lot, and I don't know. I mean, your time is quite late now. It's.
It's just almost 10 o'clock. We began at 8 o'clock. It's not late, but
10 o'clock.
I think
it's 10 o'clock.
It's 4 minutes to 10.
4 minutes to 10. So I guess I still have not understood the time difference with Austria. So basically, yeah. I mean, if for you is late or you pass the time, we can also stop now. Or up to you. Up to you. Say what you feel. Tell me what you feel. I don't want. If you want, you want to show something of your projects. If you feel like, you're welcome to do and to share if you want.
I haven't really prepared anything, and I think this is a good chance to discuss and exchange ideas. I think the two ideas that I think helps us in our understanding of intelligent machines or intelligent robots is the idea from Wittgenstein, who said that thinking is not necessarily located inside your head. Thinking happens with the lips that you speak, with the hand that you write, or the hand that you type. In other words, thinking is an external activity that really unfolds with some kind of physical action. So thinking isn't something. I mean,
detached.
We cannot retain our thoughts in our head, and we cannot organize our thoughts in our head. We organize our thoughts when we write, when we speak.
It's a process. It's a process.
So it's a kind of So we can argue that the body has always been a prosthetically augmented body, and so if a robot can speak, if it can act appropriately in unpredictable social situations, if it can communicate by text, then perhaps we need not be concerned about questioning whether this robot is intelligent or not. intelligent resides in what it does, what it says, how it acts. So that's, of course, that's simplifying stuff, but it helps us understand how we can socially interact with robots. And also Nietzsche, who says that agency is something that we attribute retroactively. It's the action that comes first, and then we attribute agency. Mm-hmm. So you do something, and I say, "Oh, you're a liar," or "You're a criminal," but I give you that agency because of the certain action that you have done. So again, the act is what comes first, and so we should evaluate the action in our interaction with robots.
I agree. And actually, I want to mention this. I don't know how much it can be related, but I like this connection. Erasmo da Rotterdam, the Elogio della Follia is the grace. I don't know the translation. You know Erasmo da Rotterdam?
No.
Erasmo da Rotterdam is this philosopher of the time of Lutero, Martin Luteranismo, that basically was saying something like this: people that make things, that do things, are the actual people that are the creative, the people that make. People that are only that have only knowledge through reading, through cultural, like all the people that learn through the cultural, intellectual ways, are not the one that make things. That are only the one that are have don't do any difference in terms of the world, in terms of the human activities. Are the one that actually makes things, that makes the difference, and they change the world. I try to express this concept. It's not easy for me to. But I don't know if
you understand. As a performance artist, I would agree, simply because I think these ideas are authenticated by the actions. In other words, what I'm speaking about are ideas that are generated from the performances. They're not just mere speculations or academic thoughts. Rather, the action has generated an idea, and this generates further iterations. The other idea that helps us understand any future relationship with technology and say intelligent machines or intelligent robots is how we consider. We should not consider this Cartesian separation of subject and object, right? And I'm very seduced by Graham Harman's definition of an object. An object cannot be reduced to its component parts, nor reduced or evaluated through its effects or relations. In other words, he considers an object something that has an existence in itself that doesn't depend necessarily on the human or how the human imagines that object. So a lot of the criticism about my performances have always been that I see the body as an object, and somehow an object is less than a subject. But in a flattened ontology of bodies and machines and microbes and algorithms, everything is of equal importance. There's no hierarchical privileging, of the human. So again, this would help us to develop a sensibility, a sensitivity to how we interact with machines, with the alien other, and that we should not privilege a body with a so-called subject.
No, I think I understood, and and I think is even better in make very important the way that are you saying this. That you saying this, not something else, somebody else. It's something that I feel is very important, knowing for how much I know of your work and for what you are saying this. But one thing is that I can read from a curator or somebody that is speaking about your work or showing something that you have made. Another, and I think is the most important and very valuable things that I can listen from your voice. That you are actually telling and saying in your language, in you're expressing and you are explaining, and I think it's very important for me, and I think in general, because of course it's not easy to access to all the information to understand. Sometimes you can maybe have an idea, and then you realize, or you need an information to understand something that maybe you were missing, some part of approaching the subject in a better way. And I think it's very important just that you are expressing and explaining this in your with your words. Is very I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine, but I think of course we shouldn't underestimate the contribution of theorists and philosophers, and it's important to understand the history of ideas, and then that helps to contextualize your own actions and the ideas that have been generated from them. And sometimes these ideas from the performances synchronize with what theorists and philosophers have already written, and sometimes they counterpoint, and other times they totally contradict.
That's the other aspect, because I think art, performative art, or all kind of expression art, is his own language. No, you speak with your own language, and like you said, philosophy, poetry, and other, they speak with another language that is also valuable and everything, but are not the same. A philosopher doesn't think like an artist and vice versa. And of course, they can connect, they can have a very strong relation or point that similar, but are different languages. And that's why I also think it's important the discussion between artists in general, because of course, like a philosopher can speak with philosopher in the same language and understand each other better, to understand each other better. I think also artists have something that unfortunately not so common from my point of view, unless you have not very closest friends that you are able to share and to discuss about your work or opinion in general. I think it's very interesting, this idea of, I think it's very important, this idea of discussing between artists, because I think there's some sort of language that is common, that is more open and understandable between who is using pretty much a language that is pretty much similar, or even in a problem of languages, different languages like we are having now. But I think this is an attitude, an approach different that is common to who is doing or using like a musicians, like musicians, people that are playing music, they speak their language, using all kind of words that or expression that can connect to the language of music, and similar to other activities in creative world. And I think that's why I really appreciate that we are having this discussion, and we are going to all kind of talking that are open in, of course, in a limited way of my knowledge of English, and but somehow the important, and you don't make, and I want to thank you that you don't make me feel like I was very limited with this problem, and but I feel like you actually made me comfortable speaking, and but I still feel like we had a good discussion, and approaching many subjects that, of course, in 2 hours we are able to talk and to just approach and speak about a few interesting points, very interesting. I want to thank you for this. So,
no, thank you very much, Marcello. It's been very interesting, and hopefully we can meet up in person
when the COVID is gonna end. these all.
Well, I think our government is not going to allow international travel until the middle of next year. So.
But I mean, you hear that unfortunately also English in England, they are going back with this. I mean, unless this is what the news are speaking now, that they are worrying about this new COVID, Indian COVID variety of virus, that they are worried that we are probably going back to another wave of virus in the new season or new fall, when unless the people don't decide to take a vaccine to vax themselves, in mass, because many people are now in Italy, I don't know, but also in Europe, against. There are a few people that don't want to they don't want to use a vaccine because they're worrying about it, and but unfortunately, there is a problem. I don't know in Australia if the vaccine is very spread or not.
I mean, the problem with Australia is that we were relatively successful in controlling the virus here in Australia. The problem has become, though, that the government became complacent, and the vaccination progress is very slow, and also they didn't order enough vaccines. So that's the problem here in Australia, that relatively speaking, we've had much less problems with infection, community infection, but the government became complacent about vaccination. But there are people who are preferring, for example, to wait for the Pfizer vaccine instead of taking AstraZeneca. The problem is, of course, until 80% of the population is vaccinated, and we're only, less than 10%.
I hear
then there will be no effect.
Yeah. So there's no the mass, how do you say, the spread vaccination, immunity of
herd immunity.
Herd
immunity.
I hear that actually also in Russia they are having a similar problem now because they have the Sputnik, not the vaccine, but they don't. People don't take it. So basically, the virus is spreading so fast and so much that it's giving trouble now. Trouble now.
Yeah. Well, I think we all hoped that this would be over in 6 months or a year, and now it's 2 years, and I think it's going to be around for a lot longer until most people are vaccinated. It's just like polio before and other kinds of flu. Until people are vaccinated, there is the possibility that you'll catch this and spread it. So.
Stelarc, sorry, the last time, can you remind me what is the last performance or the last work you're doing? You said before you're working on.
The most recent work I'm doing. I mean, last year for the 2020 Biennial of Australian Art, I had a 9-meter long, 4-meter high stick figure robot, which you could interact with online. So anyone, anywhere, at any time could access the robot through the online interface and remotely move the robot. This year I'm working on a new commission for the Science Gallery in Melbourne. And this is a new gallery, and this will be a large anthropomorphic structure, which will also be interactive. So by using your gestures, you can deform and organically change the structure of the system using swarm algorithms. So that has to be finished by the end of this year to be installed in January, and the exhibition will open in February 2022. So it sounds far away, but there's a lot of work to be done.
So those are completely new pieces.
Yes, it's probably about 5 meters high, 4 meters in diameter, approximately. I'm not sure the exact size, but a very large one, and you'll be able to interact with it remotely as well. So I can let you know when it is online.
Please do. Please do.
And then you can use your desktop or laptop camera, and by making different gestures, you'll be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
By moving, you'll be able to the camera.
Yeah.
Great. Sounds good. All right. So Stelarc, I don't want to bother you much more. I was really, really nice having you and talking to you and sharing so many things. I have too many things now in my mind that we have shared and we talked about. Thank you again. Hopefully we'll keep in touch. And
thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, and I'll look forward to listening to your future discussions with other artists.
All right, definitely. I will probably. I recorded probably I see on YouTube or which one he show up better. Then I will assemble or just edit a little bit for just if there are parts that doesn't work or they're not good, and I will make in the final video. But anyway, all the information, all the things I will do, I will share with you and sending you the links so that you know what how it works and where it goes. Where it goes.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay, then. So good night from Melbourne.
No, good night for you. For you it's night. For me is it's 2:20. For me it's 2:20.
Oh.
It's the afternoon. It's early, warm, hot afternoon.
Yeah, it's very cold here.
Yeah, for you it's cold. For me it's warm. It's hot. Very hot.
Okay then. Okay, good night.
Take
Bye.
care. Take care, Stelarc. Take care.